Welcome back to Bookview TV. We're talking this week with Joe Muto, author of the book An Atheist in the Foxhole, and a liberal's 8-year odyssey inside the heart of the right-wing media. Now, Joe, how do you think Fox viewers will react, or indeed have reacted since the book's been out for 3 weeks, to your book, and do you care?
Do I care what Fox viewers have to say about it? As weird as it sounds, I think Fox viewers might actually enjoy this book. It is very critical of the network, but it also gives, an insider's perspective as to what goes on behind the scenes. And I think people who like Fox might be interested in that. It is a fascinating place. And this book is not a complete diatribe against Fox either.
Let's talk a little bit about life inside the belly of this beast. I mean, you got hired right out of Notre Dame, which is a BC grad I will temporarily forgive, and you had several so-called drink the Fox Kool-Aid interviews before each step up further. Indeed, there was one meeting where you were asked if you felt the news product was fair and balanced. Share your answer to that interview question.
Well, that was the what we used to call the Kool-Aid conference, drink the Fox News Kool-Aid. And my answer to that question was basically, it was basically along the lines of, what they sort of tell us from day one at the network is everyone else is so liberal that we just look conservative by comparison. That was what, that's what they sort of tell you from day one when you start there, and then when you do that Kool-Aid conference, you sort of just spit it right back at them, and that seemed to satisfy them, and you move on to your next phase of your career.
Didn't you also have a moment with them where you said that during the day it's a straight news organization, but at the night it's more opinion? I mean,
oh yeah, that's the other party line thing you're supposed to stick to is, oh yeah, there's a clear separation between our opinion shows at night and our straight news shows during the day. When of course there really isn't. There's a lot of opinionating that goes on in those straight news shows during the day.
Now, you originally applied for a website news writing position, but your cover letter so impressed someone there that you got an interview to be a production assistant. Talk a little bit about that process.
Well, I wrote a really goofy cover letter, like very sort of very sort of faux self-important, like ironically self-important, I think it was. And because I didn't think I at that point been applying to a lot of jobs and gotten very few responses. Because I was sort of a hapless film and television studies major, and hadn't gotten particularly good grades and hadn't done any internships or anything like that. So I just sort of tossed off this letter to Fox in desperation, thinking it would go nowhere. And they called me back a few weeks later and said, "Hey, we love that cover letter. It was hilarious. We really enjoyed reading it." So that was an odd situation. I thought I was, sabotaging myself with this cover letter.
So you get there, you start as a as a PA, production assistant, living in New York City, earning $12 an hour, running scripts up to the broadcast anchors on the floor. You sat in one of these pods where there are 3 jobs. Kind of walk us through the jobs and how you progressed up to associate producer.
Well, when you start as a production assistant, first thing you're doing is running scripts, which is literally sitting in the control room all day and hitting Control P on your computer and printing out paper copies of the scripts. Now, it's on the teleprompter too. The anchors are reading off the teleprompter 90% of the time, so you're just printing these scripts in case the teleprompter goes down. So most of your work is just going on the anchor's desk and then getting shoved into the garbage. So that's got to be a metaphor for something, but maybe I'm not eloquent enough to make that right now. Once you get past that level, once they realize that you're not a moron, you could either move on to graphics production assistants or video. Graphics is sort of where they put the people who are a little slower, I think, because graphics is because they don't want to fire you. They already took all the trouble of signing you up.
This is like shop class, right?
Yeah. So graphics is like, and I don't know if it's still the case. It was the case 8 years ago when I was there, or 9 years ago at this point, in 2004. That was where the slow people went, because they were just not very good at what they did. Probably because they got all the slow production assistants. No, if you were good at what you did, which I was, I, toot my own horn here, I was pretty good. They send you to video, the video departments, and that's where you are. You, as a 22-year-old, recent college graduate, are responsible for almost 100% of the video that airs on Fox News Channel, seen by millions of people, which is kind of mind-boggling.
Wow. Amazing stuff. Now, at some point in time, you did get a promotion, and there's a great exchange between you and your high school friend Matt in a bar, where you ask him point blank, did I trade away my integrity for some health benefits and 74 cents an hour? To which his reply was, no, you did that already when you took the job in the first place. Why did you do it, becomes the question.
Why did I take the job in the first place?
Why did you stay and move up the ladder?
Broadcasting is very seductive, It's a very exciting field to be in. And I think I write about how exciting it was the first day. I was in the control room when we got word that the actor Marlon Brando died, and the rush to sort of confirm this news was such an thrilling entry into this world. So that, I think, more than anything, made me want to stick around, and I'd see where it went. Now there were applications to other places along the way, but it was always like, nothing ever came up enough to make me want to leave Fox. I was in, and I was doing well there. I was getting promoted. I kept moving on to progressively more challenging jobs and challenging shows, and then I ended up on O'Reilly's show, which is the top of the heap at Fox. I mean, that's the best place to be. That's you've sort of made it. You're top of the mountain if you're on O'Reilly's show. So I guess it was the carrot was dangling in front of me the entire time, and by the time I decided I wanted to leave, I'd been there for so long. It sort of seemed, it probably seems to outside people ludicrous that I stayed that long, but you blink your eyes and 8 years have gone by.
Now, you had to do some questionable things there from a journalistic standpoint. Tell us a little bit about joining Facebook under an assumed name to get the Duke lacrosse players that were involved in that horrific rape situation to agree to an interview. Did you have any problems with that, or were you just doing your job?
Well, it wasn't even an assumed name. It was my real name, and I still have that Facebook account to this day. But this was back when I was on the crime show called The Lineup. And since I was the youngest on the staff and the only one who could access Facebook. So they said, join Facebook and start messaging these kids on the Duke lacrosse team and see if they'll talk to us. So I did. I messaged all these kids and, got ignored for the most part and got a few FU type emails back. But did that bother me? It did a little, because I wasn't so far removed from college at that point, and I, felt a little weird that there's all these college-age kids being pestered by all these adults in the news industry. It felt a little unseemly to me. That whole case was an ugly situation, though.
It really was. Let's shift gears and talk a little bit about the backwards technology that you worked with there. I mean, you thought you were probably coming into a state-of-the-art environment because that's what basically Murdoch and Ailes said they were going to build. And there's this image of slick professionalism in graphics and clips, but essentially you were forced to edit everything on old-fashioned tape decks versus digital. What was that like?
Well, Fox is, I found out after I got there, Fox is sort of known within the industry for being cheap, Like they don't pay their employees that much, except for the anchors, who are making 8 figures. Some of them, but they don't pay their employees that much. They don't upgrade the equipment. I got there. The equipment they had these old tape machines that I think had been there since the network was founded in 1996, and they were all broken down, and half of them were just out of order, and they couldn't even fix them anymore because the manufacturer had stopped making them. That's how old and out of date they were. And they couldn't get any more new videotapes because the videotapes weren't being made anymore. So they held out with that system as long as they could, but it eventually was starting to affect the on-air product. There was the video was starting to look bad. So they eventually were forced basically to switch to digital.
Well, it may have been old-fashioned technology, but I got to say it was often brilliantly executed to maximum propaganda effect. Now, when we return, we'll take a look at Joe's long tenure with the love him or hate him, undisputed star of the Fox News channel. All 6'4" of mouth and menace, Bill O'Reilly himself, when our interview with Joe Muto, the Fox News mole and author of An Atheist in the Foxhole, continues. You're watching Bookview TV. Stay right here.